Hey everyone, I hope that you're doing well. Today I'm going to be doing a in-depth video on my bullet journal, which is an A6 stalogy. Recently I made a lot of changes, and by a lot I mean I completely redid the system and revamped pretty much everything for the month of March. So I thought today we could flip through the pages of March and I would go really in depth and explain everything about the system and how it's working. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm also gonna answer a couple questions that I got from you guys through YouTube as well as Instagram on the different community pages, and probably do that at the end of the video. But yeah, we're just gonna go through everything, and maybe before I go through the flip through, I'll just start with why I made a lot of changes to my notebooks and kind of the thought process behind this system. So pretty much since October, I have split my personal life and work life into separate notebooks because I wanted to have a little more distinction between work and personal and have boundaries, because I was finding it was hard to look at work tasks and not get distracted by them during hours that I wasn't necessarily working. But over the past 6 months of using 2 different notebooks for work and personal, I just found that it was starting to get to the point where it was really overwhelming to try to manage 2 books. I really like bullet journaling, so kind of the big part of that is you make all of your own spreads, and you can make them as simple or as elaborate as you want to, but even for me, who tends to do a pretty simple setup, I found having to replicate the setup twice in 2 different books was starting to get a bit unwieldy. So February was kind of the breaking point. I decided that I really didn't want to manage 2 books anymore, and I decided to figure out a way to bring everything in my life back into 1 book, which is what I did. So this will be a great opportunity to explain to those of you who are interested in what I do for work, how I manage my work stuff, because that is in here along with my personal life. So in case you were ever curious about that, you are now going to find out how I keep it all together. So let me just flip to March, and I think I'll just start with the monthly and kind of, as I flip through, explain things as they come up. So this is my monthly layout for March. I like to start the month with an overview of kind of a calendar of the month, so I can see not only events coming up, but I also like to go back and fill in what happened during the month in this calendar, so that at the end of the month I have a overview of everything that went on. This is actually different pages that I like washi taped in. Let me see if I can lift the page. Yeah, so you can see here, I'd originally set up my month as I have been doing from, I think, October. So I used to do a calendar on the left, and then I would write events on the right. And then one night I just tried making an actual proper monthly calendar spread after, I think, 8 years of never using something like this, and I really liked it. And yeah, so far it's really fun. I really like being able to decorate a little here and just use some of my stationery that I've been really loving right now, like the Yohaku washi tape and this Peon PET tape with the floral. So this has been good, and you'll see in this setup I use a lot of these dot stickers. These are from Soutelier. They are actually index tabs, so you would fold the dot over on itself on the edge of a page to mark the area, but instead what I do is I'll actually take my scissors and I'll cut the circles so they're individual circles, and then I'll just use those as dot stickers. It's kind of laborious, but I haven't seen any other dot stickers that have this kind of really thick, opaque quality. A lot of them seem to be kind of transparent, and I really like these ones. So because I have them, I'm just gonna keep using them, and maybe once I run out, I'll try to find something that I don't have to manually cut every single time, but it's working for now. And I just use these here to mark, this is an event I'm doing on Sunday. I'm going stationery shopping with some friends, so wanted to mark that down. And then these are the 2 days that I get paid as a designer. So I thought I would mark that out too, just because it's good to know for budgeting and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how my monthly calendar works. After the calendar, I have a list of projects and tasks. I've started using an Alistair method list for this to try to create some structure. So I have the letters D, G, and P, which stand for design, because I do work as a designer. G for Gray, which is Kaitlin Grey, this YouTube channel, and then P for personal, so just everything else outside of work and journaling. And I did that on both the project and the task page. In my journal, I consider a project something that is like multiple tasks that make up an item. So for example, a project for my design work could be launching a product, but then within that project of launching a product, there's a lot of smaller tasks that would go into it. As a designer, I have stuff to do, like you would do like a lo-fi wireframe, mid-fi, hi-fi, and then kind of hand off for your developers. So just those little tasks that would make up the project. So I just log the project itself here because I think it's interesting to see throughout the month what you're working on and the different things that are going on in your life. And then this side's very kind of standard, just having that task list for like random things. Like this week I had to update some goals for work. I would put laundry here. I just haven't done it yet. And like other things like that I want to just remember to do that aren't really kind of attached to anything. They're more standalone. So that's how I have this page. It works pretty well. I don't know. I'm gonna see if I would want to keep this kind of sectioning. I might not need it, we'll see. But just having that task list after the calendar keeps all the information on the month contained in a way that I need, which is nice. Okay, so now we move into the daily logs, and these are pretty different than how the typical bullet journal method is. So I'll quickly explain how I set up my daily logs. For me, I don't like to daily log one after the other. I find that it clutters the page in a way that I find overwhelming, and I prefer to have one page a day so that every day it's a new page and it's, you know, symbolically a new start, and it's just kind of one thing per page, and I just find it's easier for my mind to grasp. So what you'll see here is for March, what I do in advance is I go through and I will stamp the date at the top, and I just use a rolling date stamp for this with some brown ink. I don't use black ink in my journal. I find it very harsh on my eyes, so I prefer something softer, which is why I use brown ink. And then I use this pen, which is, it's not an Energel pen. I just really like the Pikachu special edition outside. This is a Sarasa vintage gel pen in the color brown gray. So just keeping it very soft because I find black is just a lot for my eyes. And yeah, I just go ahead and I stamp one page per day, and I kind of pre-section those in advance. And then at the beginning of each day, I'll just sit down and fill out the page, and it just works a lot better for me. It's something I kind of laugh to myself about because I feel like a lot of the changes I've made to my bullet journal make my system seem very similar to the Hobonichi Techo books. So I always like to kind of think to myself that My system is a bit of a hybrid between bullet journaling and Hobonichi, but I still make everything myself because I like to kind of have control over the layouts, which is like typical designer talk because that's what I do. I create different layouts for web, but this is kind of like the analog version of that, I guess. So, okay, what I do on the daily page. This is a good example of a day because I have different signifiers here, which I can explain. So I pretty much will, on the daily page, write down any events that I have, which are used with this circle, which is an event signifier. I use all the signifiers from the bullet journal method. I just find they work well for me. And then I have tasks, which start out as a dot, and then I cross them off as I go. And then I also will make notes. So that's what you'll kind of see here. For work tasks, because sometimes, you have little things to do at work and they can add up, I only try to write down the main focus or priority for the day that I'm working on. So I wouldn't write down in here, reply to Mark about so-and-so, or email this person or email that person, because my list would be going on to 2 pages, honestly, if I did that. So I just try to focus on writing down the key things I want to accomplish that day so that I can stay focused on what's important for me to work on. So that's kind of what I do here. I work somewhere where the work we do is very confidential and I'm not allowed to actually share the projects we're working on at all. I've signed like an NDA when I started working at the company I'm at now. So because of that, and because I like sharing my journal in public, I do create code names for all of the projects I'm doing so that I know what they are, but then someone reading it wouldn't see sensitive information. So you can kind of see that here. I kind of have this, I don't want to say obsession, but I really, really love Greek mythology. It's something that I really enjoy learning about, and as a kid I read the Percy Jackson books. I took a Greek mythology course in university. I just finished Mythos by Stephen Fry, so it's something I really enjoy learning about. So because of that, I have decided to use my code names as different figures in Greek mythology. So you'll see Hera over here. This is a project I just wrapped up. Another one I'm working on right now is Zeus. So yeah, I think I'll just go through the list of the main gods and goddesses of Olympus, and then we'll kind of branch out from there. And I'll just use those names to name my work projects, which I find very, very fun. But that's how I handle work tasks. And I will also write out personal tasks. I like to also use my daily log as a overview of what happened in the day. So I will write down like things I had for dinner, if I got dinner out, because I like to track that. I really like food. Or, this night I had a really long day at work. So after I finished for the day and had dinner, I had a shower and then accidentally fell asleep in bed watching a bullet journal video. So I thought that was kind of funny. So I wrote it down. But yeah, just kind of outlining those things that happened in the day. And then I also will tag different things on these pages that I want to reference later. So this kind of goes into the other main element of the system that I have right now, which are these dot stickers. So in the monthly calendar, I just kind of use whatever color I want to kind of go with the color theme and make it look nice. But on these daily pages and in the notes section, which is, so you get to the last page of the dailies and then you go into the notes. This and this is where I start using these dots as a way to mark different pieces of information. And I have a legend for it here. This was kind of the page I put together when I was planning out how I wanted to structure my setup, and I wrote down the different dots and things they would connect with. And I got this idea from Megan Rhiannon. She also uses dots to tag information, and I thought it was a really good idea and a good way to structure and kind of differentiate between my work notes and my personal notes. So I used these plain stickers by Soutelier to do that. And I have 6 dots. I have 1 for Kaitlin Grey, 1 for design, 1 for like books and quotes and that kind of like reference copied information, 1 for special collections. So this would be if I set up a tracker or kind of a collection for my bullet journal that is something that applies almost on a yearly scale. Personal, so this is stuff for me, and then I also have 1 for family. So as you can see here, I used this blue dot, which is quotes in books, and this is in reference to this quote that I wrote down. Someone at work shared this in our Teams chat, and at first I wasn't gonna write it down because I felt like it was a little conceited to write nice things about yourself in your journal. But then I actually thought it was a really nice compliment and I wanted to remember it. And at the end of the day, this is my journal. So if I'm gonna be conceited, this would be the place to do it. So I ended up writing it down and then I just tagged it with the quote dot here. So that's why that's connected. So I will also tag daily logs that would have information that I would want to reference, in addition to the notes, which is where the dot tags are most used. So at the back, this is where I have my notes. So this is kind of where I record any other information outside of my daily logs. So when I started this notebook, I wanted to retranscribe my notes on the Silmarillion, because I'd done them in another notebook in cursive and I was finding them hard to read. So I marked those with a book dot for information. And then I made a lot of notes. I glued in a graph here of the different elf clans because it's very complicated. And just wrote all my notes summarizing the book. And after that, I've just done a couple notes because it's only the 3rd of March, so I haven't really done a lot of notes yet, but this will show you my tagging system a little more too. I have some notes on journal ideas, so I just marked that with the Kaitlin Grey dot because I'm kind of gonna use that for like Kaitlin Grey / journaling, because I do write a lot about different ideas I have for this system. And then I also stuck in a sticker from a ice cream pint I had, and I just tagged that with a personal dot. So that was kind of cool to keep that and remember it. And then I'll probably blur this out, but I also did a reflection at the end of Hera when it was handed off, just kind of thinking about how the project went, and I wrote down my thoughts on that. The one thing I'm not sure about with this system is whether I want to do long form journaling in this notebook or keep it separate and maybe use my traveler's notebook for it, which is this guy, because I have used this as a journal before and I really like it. I tend to use printing in this journal, and I find for reflecting when I'm just letting my thoughts out, cursive is a little easier because I'm faster, so I will be able to keep up with my thoughts. So I wouldn't write in cursive in here, but I do write in cursive in my traveler's notebook, so I might just move journaling over there, but we'll see what happens. I haven't really decided yet. Okay, so I think that's kind of the main overview of the system. Now that we've gone through that, this video is already so long, but I'm going to go through some of the questions that you asked about journaling and see if I can answer them. So the Q&A portion starts now. Okay, first question. I need tips on being consistent in my practice. Hope you can share your ideas, tips, and tricks, please. Thank you. Yes, okay, I can help on this because I have kept up with the bullet journal since I think 2018, so I have had a couple years of using this to form a very consistent system, so I can share my ideas for you. I think the first thing you want to do to make sure you're consistent is make sure that the purpose of your journal is something that you really need. For me, I need to journal because if I don't write down what I have to do, I'm not going to remember to do it. And if I don't write down the things that I do, when I look back or try to think what happened on March 1st, I won't be able to remember. So having an archive of information that I can look back on in the future, as well as having it in present to remember what I need to do that day, is a strong enough purpose for me that motivates me to use my journal, because I know if I don't use my journal, it's gonna have negative effects on my mental health because I won't remember to do anything, and then I'll get overwhelmed, and yeah, it just kind of goes downhill from there. So for me, I need my journal to kind of keep track of things, to help me stay afloat on tasks, and that has a really big impact mentally for me. So that purpose really helps me every day make sure that I am going in and journaling. One thing I would recommend, because I know people do say, you know, when you're journaling, it's good to do it every day at a certain time. I think that's a really good idea. The only thing I would say is I wouldn't be so married to the time. So for example, if you tell yourself, I want to journal every morning, and that's when I'm gonna break open my journal, but one day, let's say you have something happen in the morning and you don't get to it. I think even if you got to your journal in the afternoon and still sat down to write in it, that would be considered a win. So not being so stuck to the routine that if you do fall out of routine, you're not getting out of using the book. Although I like to journal in the morning, sometimes I have a lot of meetings, so it doesn't happen because sometimes life is like that. So I will, as soon as I do have the time, maybe at lunch or whenever I have a break, I'll take out my journal and use it then. So having a routine, but knowing that even if you don't follow the routine, you can still use it. And the point is to use it, not to use it at a specific time. So I would say that. I think also having your journal really portable helps. I will bring my journal everywhere with me in the house. I work from home, so for me, it's going up and downstairs. For you, it might be going to an office, so I would recommend thinking about using a journal that's easy to carry around. So if you carry a small bag, maybe having a journal that's small enough to fit in the bag so that you're not forgetting it. And yeah, nothing like really revolutionary on this. I think the biggest thing is just really having that purpose that motivates you to use it. And then when you have situations where you fall out of the routine of using your journal, making sure that you kind of get back into it and continue to use it, even if it's not in an ideal circumstance. So that would be my tips on that. Okay, 2 more questions. Let's see. Okay, next question is, how long is your daily routine, and do you plan in the morning or the night before? Okay, so daily routine, usually it takes me about 5 minutes to write in my journal at the beginning of the day because I'm just writing down events I know that are scheduled or tasks I have to do. So usually about 5 to 10 minutes. I have some meetings first thing in the morning at work, but I get like a half-hour gap after those. So usually in that gap, I will sit down to write in my journal and plan my day. Usually I'll do this the day of, but if I know I have something as I'm finishing my work day or that evening when I'm journaling that I know I need to do the next day and I don't want to forget it, then I'll just write it down because I have a really bad memory. So if I know I need to do something, I will write it down that night, but usually it's in the morning. Next question. Where do you buy journals from? So I will get my journals. Okay, so I live in Toronto. We have a bunch of really great small stationery stores that exist. So when I'm purchasing my journals, I try to first check to see if they have them so that I can support them as businesses. But sometimes they're out of stock, and if I need a stalogy, I will then go to the second option, which is Amazon. So Amazon does sell these notebooks quite readily, and I will go there if I can't find them locally. So that's kind of how I do that. And then for my other journals, like my traveler's notebook, I will buy these inserts mostly from my local stationery store because Amazon almost doubles the price of them. So then it's not really, unless I really desperately need something and I can't find it locally, I'll just wait till my local stationery store stock it, because these are actually cheaper from Amazon, but traveler's notebook inserts are not really worth it. They're a lot more expensive, so you're actually paying more, which isn't ideal. So yeah, local stationery stores in Toronto, like Wonder Pens, Paper Plus Cloth, Leywines are the ones I like to go to. And then if that fails, I will go to Amazon. Okay, next question. Do you make yourself cozy before journaling, or do you just start right away? Okay, so the thing is, I like to make myself cozy all the time. So even at work, I will always have slippers on or fuzzy socks, or I will have a heated blanket, which has been the latest discovery of 2023 that has changed my life. Get yourself a heated blanket. It's life-changing, just saying. And yeah, so I'm kind of cozy all the time, but if I'm journaling, I will make sure that I have some tea. I definitely want to make sure I have my pencil case and my supplies. And yeah, usually I will get cozy if I am not already cozy, which is a very rare occurrence in my life. How often do you long form journal? This is a good question. So for a while, I was long form journaling every day, and I was doing it in the morning. I kind of go between doing it every day and then just doing it as I need, depending on how I'm feeling mentally. When I'm a bit more stressed, or I'm just feeling like I have a lot more thoughts going on in my head, I will journal every day so that I can unload those. But like right now, I don't really feel the need to do that. So I will just journal when there's something I really want to kind of process or get out of my brain. So it kind of depends on where I'm at with my mental health and how I'm feeling, to be honest. Okay, let's see. So the other questions are personal questions. So there's one about living in Canada, and then there's one about the work I do outside of that. So just because this video I think is like almost half an hour long, I'm gonna keep the personal questions to maybe a separate video if you guys want to see that. But those were the questions about journaling that I answered. And I think that's everything on this system. If you have any questions about it, let me know. I really like how this is working, and I think I'll buy a new journal for April so I can start fresh. And I already have some ideas for how I want to change this even more in a new book. So I'm really excited about that. But for now, this is a good test drive into the system, and it's been really fun. So yeah, that is kind of a very, very in-depth look at my journal. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I'm currently using it, and that is all for today, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons for supporting me. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend or day or week, whenever it is for you, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.